Welcome to the Loving on Purpose Forgiveness class. I'm Yari Sampson. I'm the director of the Loving on Purpose Life Academy. This is, as you know, Danny Silk.
Hi, Yari.
Hello, hello. And we're going to be talking today about forgiveness. When we're on the road, when we're doing Keep Your Love On tours and different things, we have so many questions around communication and relationships. And one of the main things that keeps coming up is around the topic of forgiveness. So we're just going to take some time over the next 20, 30 minutes and just talk about forgiveness. So Danny, what are some main things that you see when you're on the road? Like what are some of the main questions that people throw at you?
Everybody's afraid to keep their love on.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm afraid to keep my love on because what if I keep my love on and you don't?
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. I don't even know if I could love you if you don't love me back. And so this idea of forgiveness is like this big black hole that people are afraid of falling into and not being able to drag their relationship out. So I think the topic of forgiveness keeps coming back to, why should I keep trying when it doesn't feel like you are?
Right. I mean, I know that I've faced that in my own life of so how do you get past that? So what if the person isn't trying, and you've kept your love on and all of that. So what's the next step?
I think over and over and over what we do is we keep coming back to this reality that I can only do my half of our relationship. I can't do yours, So it'd be like you've decided to not take a shower anymore. So I'm not going to do it either. I'm not taking a shower because you're not taking a shower. It's that kind of logic. It's that kind of like, no. I'm going to keep moving along. I'm going to keep protecting my heart. I'm going to protect my spirit. I'm going to protect the quality of my life regardless of what you do. Because one day you are going to turn this around. You're going to be looking for our relationship again. I want to make sure I'm in good shape when that happens.
Yeah, so do you continue to, in the process of all of that, as you're managing yourself and the person is, let's say the person's not wanting to respond, do you continue to, make your needs known and have those conversations, hard conversations, even in the midst of them not responding to you?
Yeah, and part of this is going to start moving into the boundaries conversation. But, let's just say that I'm going to put my needs out on the table. And if you're bitter towards me, or you're just having a hard time managing yourself, and so you're disrespectful or irresponsible with our connection, I am going to pay attention to how you treat what I said out there.
Right.
Because if you're hurtful and mean, all right, I'm going to be working on keeping my love on. And I'm going to move into, really, as a believer, I'm going to move into what it is that I know the Scripture instructs me to do with this situation. Yeah. And that is, I am best off forgiving from my heart, which means I'm going to push all the toxins away from the vital organs of my spirit, which is my joy, my hope, my honor, my love. I'm pushing all the infection away, just like my body would do. If there's a threat against the health and function of my body, forgiveness helps me to push away, like the white blood cells are pushing away infection. They're chasing. That's what I'm designed to do. So Matthew 18 tells me that I am to forgive the way that I've been forgiven. It's that whole story of the servant who comes before the king. He's been held in debtor's prison, which is a great idea. I don't understand that whole deal. But you're going to be stuck in prison until you pay off every bit that you owe. And he gets out of that situation with a merciful king who says, I've decided to forgive you of a debt that you could never repay. He can't believe it. He's downtown, free as a bird, and he sees somebody who owes him $10. And he's crazy. Just like, what happened to you? You just got released of millions, and now you're going to go, and he's choking this guy out, saying, give me my $10. Like that scene from, Christmas Story.
Oh, yeah.
I want my $2. He's totally just choking this guy down. And the king's servant sees this whole scene, goes back, reports it to the king, and the king says, bring him back. So now this guy that was free,
Right.
because of the grace and mercy of the king, is now back in judgment again. And the judgment is, you are going back to prison, and the tormentors are going to come and work you over.
Wow.
And Jesus says, the same thing's going to happen to you if you don't forgive from your heart. So
Yeah.
I have tons of motivation on my side
Totally. Yeah.
to manage me through our whole exchange. And even when Peter comes to Jesus and says, how many times we got to do this? Is this is like, this is hard. This is hard to forgive somebody who keeps, Peter, it's so funny that it's
Totally.
Peter who's saying, it's so hard, it's just so challenging when you have to keep forgiving people.
Yeah.
And you can see Jesus shaking his head like, what it's like to live around you? But this is classically, the people who have, a biggest struggle forgiving people are commonly the people who need the most forgiveness from other people.
Yeah.
And so when Jesus says, no, you're not forgiving 7 times. You're forgiving more than you can keep track of. 7 times, 70 times.
Yeah.
And I think this is the condition, which is I live in a perpetual decision to not be your judge and to not be your punisher, ever.
Okay, so what then do you do with somebody who just keeps poking at you? How do you get past unforgiveness? How do you forgive that?
Well, it's a condition of my heart towards you. Because if I don't forgive you, then I begin to introduce a dynamic into not just my relationships, but also into my character. Like my character begins to be twisted up, perverted in how I see everything. Like remember in 2 Samuel 15, where Absalom, he watches his brother Amnon, and he doesn't know what to do with the situation because his brother rapes his sister and just devastates her. I mean, she comes and lives at his house. So he is living in the offense of what has happened. He looks at her every day. He comes home and she is tore up. She is just she's not gonna bounce back. She actually lives in this condition the rest of her life. And Absalom knows that his father, King David, he knows that David knows about this. And the Bible says that David was very angry, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He didn't come to bring justice, especially the justice that, in that day, the only justice was kill the offender.
Yeah.
Kill him. And, Amnon's just walking around acting like he's fine, and he's still a prince in the kingdom. He's still just acting like everything's fine. And Absalom is just burning with this unforgiveness and this injustice, really, is what he's burning with. He's burning with injustice. And so, he kills him. He kills his brother.
Man.
There you go. That's it. Okay, if you who have the authority to bring justice aren't going to do it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Vengeance is mine.
Yeah.
And so he does. He takes vengeance, and now that begins a process where Absalom is now cut off from his father. He has now offended his father.
Yeah.
And there's a separation. There is he flees his own land, his own place. He has to now leave.
Yeah.
Well, a series of events. He is brought back in, and King David forgives his son. And so Absalom gets to re-enter the kingdom. He gets to come back and be a prince in the land. He's got 50 guys out running in front of his chariot. He is a prince in his father's kingdom because his father forgave him of his offense.
Yeah.
But Absalom never forgives his father. For 40 years, he lives in his father's kingdom, holding the king in judgment against something that happened, a generation ago at this point.
Yeah.
in the process, he begins to set himself up as an example of justice. And so when people come to the king, they come to the city gate, they see Absalom sitting out there, who is now going to be, if I were the king, I would bring justice. If I were God, here's how I would handle your situation.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get you as offended with God as I am.
Yeah.
And actually, let me see if I could pervert the scripture and or your past experiences with God. Let me see if I can play the role of being a better God. I mean, if you've ever been on, Facebook, this is what happens all day.
Pretty much anything on social media.
So, it's if I were God,
Yeah.
this is what I would do with it. And it's really my own unforgiveness towards God in many ways.
Right.
Not just you, but why didn't you protect me against that? Why didn't you stop that? Why did you let that happen? And so this situation opens me up for this Absalom spirit to come in and to set myself up as an example of what justice would look like.
Yeah.
Well, I would do this, and no babies would die, and there'd be no poverty, and there'd be no hunger, and this. And if I were God, this is what I would do. Like, oh gosh, there's a whole governmental structure that is set up to make us better than the job God's doing. Like, oh gosh, and this is coming from the offense that happens where I never let God off the hook for what I think he should have done. Yeah. So Absalom, he lives in this world, and he just becomes treasonous in his father's kingdom. And he splits the kingdom to the point to where David ends up fleeing from Absalom and the army that he's raising up to take the throne. It's just, time after time after time, we have this unawareness of the long-term consequences of unforgiveness in our own heart, and the situation, the circumstances we create around us when I won't forgive you, and I won't forgive you for what you let happen.
Right.
So over and over and over, we end up with this condition that it's going to come back to, will I practice the covenant that I made with God? Will I practice the covenant I've made with you, whether I'm married to you or we just live in the body of Christ together? Like my leg has a covenant with my eye.
Right.
We're going to get along. We're going to do what we have to. We're going to submit to the governmental system that pushes infection away for the benefit of all of us, our whole body. So I'm going to submit to the solution to the consequences that unforgiveness would bring by submitting to, I forgive you from my heart. I will practice our covenant.
Yeah.
And we know that covenant requires death. I have to be willing to die to preserve this. Yeah. I'm willing to give my life knowing that I've been crucified with Christ, Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but him living through me.
Yeah.
So this is the practice of honor. This is the practice of love. This is the practice of forgiveness.
Yeah. It's really good. I mean, I think that's a common thing. I think going through my own issues in my own life with unforgiveness and just with different relationships, I think that's always been kind of my go-to of, I'm dealing with unforgiveness with this person, and God, how could you let this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're supposed to be this all good God who has justice and has my back, Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they had mentioned something that Bill Johnson had said, and Bill Johnson has said this quote, and he said, God is in charge, but he's not in control. And that was such a huge thing for me, because it was like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I've learned in the process of forgiveness of, my husband, God is in charge of our marriage, but he's not in control of my husband. My husband is not his puppet. Mm-hmm. He gets to make his own decisions and gets to make his own choices, and I have the ability to make my own choices on how I'm going to respond to that. Yeah. And so that's so good. It's exactly that of, he's in charge, not necessarily in control, and we get to choose how we
Absolutely,
move forward.
and the idea that the police are in charge in your city.
Right.
They're not in control.
No.
They're not in control, but you
Yeah.
will answer to the police
Totally.
for how you handle
Yeah.
your behavior as a citizen.
Yeah.
You'll be accountable
still
to
in
them.
charge.
They have
Right.
authority and they are in charge. With
Yeah.
that authority, they're in charge, but
Right.
they're not in control.
Right.
Otherwise, we could blame the police for everything that happens.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
the police should have fixed that. Police should have stopped that. Police should have, like, wait a second. They're not in control.
Right.
And so when we blame God for all the stuff that's going on, He's in charge.
Yeah.
And everybody ultimately will be answering to Him.
Yeah.
But you know what? There's a tree in the Garden of Eden
Right.
for a reason.
Right.
Because you have
Choice.
freedom,
Yeah.
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 And we're not going to have love. We're not going to have unforgiveness.
Right.
We're not going to have any of those things if people don't have choices.
Yeah.
But we have the choice of unforgiveness because we have the choice to forgive.
Yeah.
You just have to decide.
Right.
And I know I've forgiven you because I no longer have a desire to seek vengeance, to see you suffer, to see you, to make you
writhe in pain.
because I
Right.
hurt, you're going to hurt.
Totally.
I no longer, that has been pushed away.
Yeah.
And the anxiety of
Right.
The disconnect of our relationship is tremendously subsided because my love chases away fear. The love that I have towards you, it chases away the fear. This, I think, most commonly, this shows up in a dynamic between a parent and a child.
Right.
The parents, for whatever reason, get this unconditional love thing with their kids.
Yeah.
Like, my kid did this, he lied to me. You broke that thing of mine. You didn't do what I asked you to do.
Yeah.
And we work through it.
Yeah.
And it's called parenting because it's going to happen again
Right.
and again and again and again. And it doesn't go away. Even though they become adults, it doesn't go away. It just gets more expensive
Yeah.
and actually hurts a little longer.
Yeah. Right.
But as a parent, I bring back to my child this idea of I am going to keep my love on and make a way for you to return. I'm going to
Good.
be ready. I'm
Yeah.
going to be ready when you return.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make reconnecting with you difficult.
Yeah.
Because commonly the mistake a parent will make is you have to do what I want you to do before I'll love you again.
Right.
And that's what leads to broken families,
Yeah.
is I don't even know where it all went wrong. It all went wrong when the parents shut their unconditional love off.
Yeah.
But watch over and over and over, when parents don't do that, when they just refuse to turn their love off, the anxiety that usually protects me from you
Yeah.
is gone. And so when you do come back, even like Luke 15, where the prodigal son, how in the world did that story get named after the dumb son?
Right.
I don't even know how. That
true.
should be the superstar father
Yeah. Totally. The guy who comes
parable.
running.
Yeah, the parable of the superstar father.
Yeah.
When the son does come back, that father, no anxiety there because the father forgave him. He longed for the return of his son. That's the power of love.
Yeah.
So when that son finally comes to himself and remembers, I'm a son,
Yeah.
he can come back and the father runs out because there's no anxiety. So
Yeah.
I know that I have forgiven you when I don't seek your punishment. I'm not your punisher. And that anxiety that would keep me walling myself up or backing away from you, when that's gone.
It's good.
That's how I know that I've forgiven you.
Yeah. I'd love to actually just tell people a little bit more about the course and how they can really learn more of these principles. But before we do that, what would you say is a takeaway? What's the one thing that you could leave us with about forgiveness?
I think the story of Joseph and how he's in a family where he knows he's called to do something great with his life, and they hate him for it. They try to kill him.
Yeah.
And, they leave him for dead. He ends up Pharaoh's right-hand guy. There's a famine in the land, and the people who tried to kill him are standing in front of him asking for food. He's got them. He's got them where he wants them. He could just destroy them right here.
Yeah.
But because of forgiveness, because he does not desire their destruction, because he does not desire separation, because he has no anxiety, he actually tells them, I'm Joseph, and they are scared to death. Oh no, we know what people who've been hurt can do to other people. And he says, but what you meant for my destruction, what you meant for evil, God has turned together for good. And the work of forgiveness in my life actually makes me a better lover. And he moves towards them, he closes the gap, and then he blesses them. He blesses them with everything he knows that they need. Everything that he has, he makes available to them.
Yeah.
This is the fruit of forgiveness, is that I don't want your destruction. I want to move towards you when I can, and I'm going to make sure that I bless you in the relationship.
Wow. Well, with that, if you are wanting to learn more about relationships, boundaries, connection, communication, and how to be effective in your relationships, our online course on relationships is starting up. You can actually go onto our website today at loplifeacademy.com/relationships. We're launching this course to help strengthen relationships and families and leadership cultures all over the world. And, this has been a dream of the Silks and really our team, Loving on Purpose. And so, Danny, actually just tell us a little bit about, why you're excited about the school and just what your thoughts are about it.
Well, I think that anybody that wants to just further learn about the Loving on Purpose message, it's key. It's just concise. It's packaged right to move through relationships, through the parenting stuff, through the culture of honor stuff. It's beautiful. It was a lot of fun to record. I thought you did a great job. I thought Brittany did a great job. It's deep stuff that is built to either reinforce what you've already learned or to introduce you beautifully to this whole message.
Yeah, the Loving on Purpose message has completely changed my life. And so for it to be online, especially the relationship course, Keep Your Love On, and just the messages that you speak around that topic of keeping boundaries and connection and communication, honestly just completely changed my world. So for it to be online and accessible anywhere at any time is really exciting.
And we start with the relationship course. We start with the Keep Your Love On material. So many people ask me if I'm still doing counseling. I don't. I'm a terrible counselor. I'm never available anymore. I'm just never available. I can't do 2 sessions. So, but the Keep Your Love On material is 20 sessions with Danny. And this course is actually 8 sessions of that material that is so helpful, leads you through the idea of making a connection, communicating in such a way to protect that connection, and then setting up boundaries in order to have a life that is built around protecting your priorities and executing the things that your life is about.
Yeah, and it's around any relationship. So it doesn't necessarily have to be within a marriage or dating or anything like that. It's great for your workplace. It's good for your relationships with your family. So, what do I need and how do I communicate that? It's just phenomenal. So check it out. Yeah.
It's good stuff.
loplifeacademy.com/relationships. We'll see you at the Life Academy.